Oh my gosh, this is overwhelming.
If you didn't feel something in seeing these dummies, then the figure maker failed. Where are the stories of interest? Where are the stories that make the tourists say, oh wow?
Hey guys, Landon Harvey here. I'm so excited to take you on a journey with me today. If you've ever been curious about the world of ventriloquism, well, you're in for a real treat. I traveled all the way from Las Vegas to Erlanger, Kentucky to visit one of the most unique places in the world, the Ventriloquist Museum. It's the largest collection of ventriloquist memorabilia and dummies, and every single piece tells a fascinating story. You're going to see the incredible history behind this art form, rare puppets you've never imagined, and the stories of artists who shaped ventriloquism as we know it. Whether you're an enthusiast like me or new to the art, I promise you'll walk away amazed. For those of you not familiar with me, I'm a ventriloquist, puppet builder, and producer. I've been doing ventriloquism and performing since I was 6 years old, and I'm very excited to be sharing part of my world with you today. Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to Annie Roberts and Lisa Sweasy of the Ventriloquist Museum for coordinating and making sure that we had enough time to showcase this wonderful, historic location. I also want to give a shout out to my cameraman for making all this possible and the wonderful work you're about to see. Alright, enough of the intro. Grab some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy. Nestled within a neighborhood in the quaint town of Erlanger, Kentucky, lies the Ventriloquist Museum. It houses the world's largest collection of ventriloquist dummies and memorabilia, showcasing the rich history and artistry of this craft. Join me as I explore the origins of this art form. Alright, hey guys, Landon Harvey here at the Ventriloquist Museum. I'm so excited. This is my first time seeing the new museum, the new layout. I can't wait to see what collections are where, the layout of everything. I'm overfilled with joy. So let's get to it. Hi Lisa.
Hi Landon.
How are you?
Welcome.
Good to see you. Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad you're here.
For having me.
I can't wait for you to see everything.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's brand new, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know.
It's so beautiful.
Well, come on in.
And the
Let's go see it.
landscaping.
Well,
My
thank
gosh.
you. Thank you. Brian does that, of course, my wonderful husband. But, of course, the magic happens inside. Come on in.
Oh my gosh, this is overwhelming.
It is. It is. It is a massive collection, isn't it? And every tourist feels the same way that you do. It is massive.
Where do you begin?
That is up to you.
I mean, the wall is so captivating. I mean, it's like
Right.
so many eyes.
That's right. The bleachers, a lot of people, we have a little bit of a slower burn than we used to have, where that people would see maybe 40 or 50. But then, yeah, being exposed to a bleacher full of them, for many people is very off-putting. But we talk a lot about the uncanny valley and why that is. And honestly, if you didn't feel something in seeing these dummies, then the figure maker failed, right? You should anticipate life, or it's just a prop. It's not a character anymore.
The uncanny valley effect is palpable here. Surrounded by lifelike puppets, the line between reality and illusion blurs, creating a surreal atmosphere. Each puppet, from legendary to lesser-known ventriloquist, tells a unique story, making this collection charming and truly captivating.
How has that uncanny valley fluctuated over time with figure builders?
Well, I think that people they have really responded to the soft figures. I mean, like the kinds that you make, that
Right.
they're friendly and they're Muppet-like. And people, I think, because of their exposure to puppetry as children and soft figures, I've never had any tourist that was intimidated by a soft puppet. But with the humanoids, those tie back into the uncanny valley, and it's a response that we cannot. You can't divorce yourself from it. This stillness for many people is off-putting.
What's your favorite from the wall?
From the whole collection, my favorite is Stony Broke, sitting over there with his sweet face and his purple blazer. But I really do see them all as individual pieces of art.
Absolutely.
And so in each one has its intricate nature and its elements of interest. So when the tourists are here, I do really enjoy seeing the collection through their eyes, because I don't know what they're going to pick. So I try to have a story for everybody and something to say about every piece, because I just never know what they're going to want to see.
Lisa's dedication to the museum is remarkable. Her passion for preserving ventriloquism's history shines in every corner. featuring a diverse array from historic dummies to modern puppets, ensuring the art form thrives for future generations.
What we want to do is represent as many people as possible.
Sure.
And have every ventriloquist who's represented here kind of get their opportunity to have their story told. So if it's a person that it was a mainstay in entertainment and the tourist has a good shot of publicly being exposed to them, I really shy away from taking that off exhibit because I want the tourists to tie in. So, Jimmy Nelson and Paul Winchell and Senior Wences, Edgar Bergen, and then today's people like Darci and Paul Zerdin and Terry Fader and Jeff Dunham. The other pieces come down to where are the great stories? Where are the stories of interest? Where are the stories that make the tourists say, oh wow, how cool is that? So dummies that were in the war, or they survived some kind of physical, damage, and have just these great backstories.
So the real question is, do you know all these figures by name and story? Do you
I
have
know.
flashcards? Are you studying? How do you go about doing that? Because it's a daunting task as curator and lead of everything.
I wouldn't say that if you just held up a dummy face, and I might not get it, but part of that is just getting older, and it has nothing to do with ever having known the name. It's just my brain is not as quick as it used to be. I try to know something about everybody. I do see where that is my responsibility, yes, because I don't want anyone to feel left out.
Right.
And I'm very much about, everyone is welcome and no one is special is kind of my motto. I want everybody to feel connected to Vent Haven. So I feel that way about the dummies too. There's, just because a dummy wasn't used by a famous person does not lower them,
Absolutely.
in my mind's eye about their story being told. So could you find a dummy and me go, and just show me the face and me get it wrong? Probably, but in front of me, I hope that wouldn't happen. I do care very much about them all.
And what kinds of tourists do you get?
I get structured groups like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Red Hatters, senior centers that are doing like community service and day trips. I get bus tours of people that are crossing the country with groups and they're stopping at various locations. But the majority of my tourists, I would say, are people who are on road trips, and it's just a person and their friends, and they're just looking for the unique thing to do. So they find us on like Atlas Obscura or Roadside America, and are like, wait, what? There's a museum on ventriloquism? We gotta see that. And so they'll book a tour online, and they're just here because they want to see something that they can't see anywhere else in the world.
Wow. And that must be so neat seeing it again through their eyes.
That is the coolest part.
A fresh perspective.
Yes, because it's easy when you are essentially delivering the same historical content. It would be very easy to become, just kind of dried up about that and repetitive and rote, but the tourists won't allow it.
Right.
And so every tour is unique for me. And yes, it does keep the enthusiasm up and the freshness up and the storytelling up. And then the other thing about it too is that I get 20 to 25 dummies a year added to the collection. So I'm learning new stories along the way as well. So we have 68 dummies that are new this year. And then I've already got, for the class of 2025, I've already got 20 ready to go for next year. So it just keeps growing. If something this quaint and adorable and unique was in Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, it will disappear. Because the cultural vibrancy in those cities and the variety of things to do in those cities is greater. Right. And so would it actually get picked up as a great tourist attraction? Whereas we are here just outside Cincinnati, plenty of stuff to do in Cincinnati, but we are much more likely to get picked up as the cool thing to do. And we do. This donation this year is a huge deal. We got our first Brant Gilmer, we got our first Conrad Hartz, we got our first Kristen L, we got our first Eric Alexander, we got our, it's been a huge deal because I love having a variety of figure makers represented here.
That are still living too.
Yes, yes. And so it helped, the tourists then can kind of get drawn in by a face type. So there are some tourists who come and they're just, every dummy they pick happens to be a Lovick.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, there's a stylistic or an artistic draw based on the face type. So that's kind of fascinating is, you know, if you go to an art gallery, why are you in front of the Monets instead of the Picassos?
Well, it's your taste.
That's right. So I like that. I like that there's this huge variety. So favorite figure maker, I would say I do not have one. I try to appreciate them all for whatever. Even if it's more primitive, like a W.H.J. Shaw figure or something where it's less defined with features, it's still a neat style.
Yes.
You know, there's still something to be appreciated there.
How do you choose what figures to showcase?
So your first year here, everything goes out. Every donation gets at least 1 year on display. It's first year, it's like it's special, it's featured, it gets talked about.
Yes.
And then after that, then I start placing them wherever it would make the most sense chronologically or thematically. So for example, this Jake here, that's a Marshall figure. That's a great dummy, and then it goes with the little Marshall Tommy knots there. Well, the thing that makes the most sense based on the performance career and the model is that it would go to that gallery next year. So that's kind of, it's pretty easy for me because I've got the rooms kind of thematically organized to know what the best placement is.
Restoring puppets is a labor of love, requiring patience and precision. As a figure maker myself, I appreciate the craftsmanship that brings these characters to life.
So Lisa, how do you go about dealing with the donations and the dummies and the memorabilia you get every year?
It's a pretty substantial part of my job, actually. We typically get anywhere from 20 to 30 new dummies and their ephemera in any given year. So it all has to be cataloged before it gets put on display. This year I got 68 new dummies. So these are all in our database now. But
Are these the new ones?
These are the new ones, and these are all, this is their first time on display here at Van Haven. So welcome to the museum, you guys. So 68 stories to learn and all of that. A lot of fun. We're very grateful for it. And I think too that the more the museum is known, the more people want to be represented here. So it's really nice. I love them. This is my special exhibit for 2024. So on Punch and Judy.
Yes.
I try to do something in this room. It's only going to be here for a year. And it's featuring something that might not get its due. So Punch and Judy, while it's not ventriloquism, right? There are many ventriloquists who do Punch and Judy, but it's not technically ventriloquism.
Right.
So all of these punch sets are in storage. So I wanted to get them all out and show people, you know, the diversity of the collection here. So I made my little booth.
Yes,
Adorable.
that's adorable.
I know, it's adorable. So, so Punch.
And how do you, I mean, just like walking up closely, you can see the years of performance, aging.
Well, where this one is coming at the seams, you can tell how it was constructed.
Yes, the construction of it. How do you go about cleaning them and maintaining them?
Well, any dummy that comes in damaged, that's part of its story.
Sure.
So we don't do restoration work upon arrival. I do a cleaning because what we don't want to do is introduce any kind of pest or any kind of, you know, spore or anything like that into the general collection. So things stay isolated until I clean them. And then I clean them based on condition. So some things, like we've got a dummy that's dressed in velvet that, oh my gosh, velvet from 1900 does not want to hold up. So that care is crazy, you know, focused. Like you have to be so careful to not, as I like to call it, don't remove more of the velve, which I don't think is a thing, but that's what I say. The good thing about working here is that these are performance pieces. These things were constructed to be used. So if they had been cared for all along, they're fine. They're fine to be dusted and, you know, and inspected. The majority of all these dummies, they work just fine. Most of them mechanically are fine, which is really amazing, right? So the next gallery here, this is where a lot of my tourists start getting connected because these people were on television.
What lines? You only have one line. We're doing one joke. I forgot it.
And ventriloquists like Paul Winchell emerge. He loved Bergen and he modeled himself quite a bit after Edgar Bergen, but then he was so technologically sophisticated, he engaged in any technology that emerged. Plus, he got into animation. He was the voice of Tigger from Winnie the Pooh.
Nobody answers. Hello, I'm Tigger.
He was also Dick Dastardly, and he was Gargamel from the Smurfs and the Scrubbing Bubbles character.
The first bite is always the best. Yow!
And he did all of these voices in the animation world. So there were people who knew him as a ventriloquist and people who knew him as a voice actor.
Through all of that, he really knew character.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was, I mean, just an amazingly talented
And the range,
vibrant.
too, is just...
Yeah.
Of his characters.
Yeah, he's so, where you look at Bergen and he was very sophisticated and the vaudeville remnants are still there. And then you get Paul to come along and he's just so much more, almost childlike. Yeah, just more vibrant and more on the cusp of things as they were emerging.
And taking up space too.
Yeah.
He took up a lot more space with his characters and with his just presence.
Yes, he did. I absolutely agree. So there's so many ventriloquists today who will say, my inspiration was Paul Winchell or Jimmy Nelson, more so than I think than admiring Bergen, but not learning from Bergen. Right. He's my favorite ventriloquist of all time. Just in case we need to clarify that, was Jimmy Nelson.
Yes.
Because obviously, knowing the person for 20 years and being around him, I might cry because there's no match for him, in my opinion. I've never met a person who was 100% nice through and through. Yeah. And I just was in love with Jimmy because he cared about people and how they were doing and gave his time so freely. I could do an hour talking about my friend Jimmy Nelson. I miss him and Betty so much. So he was just an extraordinary human being. He cared so much about the museum and the art of ventriloquism. He was a consummate professional. I never heard him say a bad word about anybody. I just loved him. Most people know Sherry and Lambchop from one of the two big times, which TV show are they talking about? So I get a lot of visitors who, that now are in, let's say, their early 30s. Right. And they know from Charlie Horse Music Pizza, the show with one of Sherry's last show, I think. So Lambchop gets the cool distinction of being known by the older tourists and the younger tourists because of Sherry's length of her career and the different times that she had TV shows. So Lambchop's pretty popular. Mallory was here last year and lent us this, the authentic Lambchop, Charlie Horse, and Hush Puppy in the costumes, because who doesn't need Lambchop in a band shako?
I'm excited that the museum showcases known characters of Sherry Lewis. Sherry's daughter, Mallory Lewis, continues to keep Lambchop's legacy alive through social media engagement and public performances.
And then, of course, we have a lot of the collectibles and things, but having, people come in there, is it a real Lambchop? And I'm like, well, do you mean the first Lambchop? Because that's long since gone. I talk about soft figures wearing out so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And what fascinates me is how well Mallory has continued Lambchop's legacy.
I know. The voice is perfect. And then the look, she's got the look and everything, and she's so sweet and a dynamic person, a dynamic person.
It makes me wonder if any of Dunham's boys will ever continue as characters, if he'll just say like, here, I'll teach you how to start your own thing.
I don't know. I've seen him do the videos of the boys, especially when they were little, and he would have Peanut talk to them and stuff when they were little toddlers. So I don't know. You never know.
I've also had the honor of interviewing Willie Tyler of the comedic duo Willie Tyler and Lester, and seeing his story displayed here is particularly special.
Of course, one of the most popular ventriloquists living today is Willie Tyler. He was very popular as a Motown artist, but for white audiences, many of them first saw him when he joined the cast of Laugh-In the last year that show was on. And then he made a lot of guest appearances on the sitcoms of the 70s. He kind of is a throwback artist in the sense that when we're talking about Paul being so animated and so out there, he's much more sophisticated, I feel like. He's kind of a throwback to the Bergen era. Of just like, the vaudevillian, sophisticated person, so attached.
Classy and cool demeanor to him.
Exactly. So we have the first professional Lester that he had gotten, and so that's him as a young man with this Lester. But then the other one that everyone's used to, I think it's just that one, and there is a backup.
Yeah, I was talking with him, and he was telling me about how he used it for McDonald's commercial as Lester's girlfriend.
Hey, what did you find out about this value pack? Ophelia. Who? My lady. Ophelia, say hello to Willie.
And then this gallery, of course, these are the most modern ventriloquists. Jay Johnson, of course, was on Soap from 1977 to 1981. Again, just one of the most wonderful professionals there is. Jay is funny. I just think he's phenomenal. And then, of course, winning a Tony Award for a one-man show, it's ridiculous. As far as I know, he's the only ventriloquist to win a Tony Award, so what an achievement for the art.
The ventriloquist's dummy has evolved significantly. Early wooden dummies were simple in design and color, while modern puppets, like those of Jeff Dunham's, are vibrant and full of personality. This growth is essential to how puppets engage audiences today, and have, over time, evolved to reflect society and confront its taboos.
Well, I'm happy to call you my new manager. I'm what you call a player in a management profession. Right. Pimp.
I think that's partly because of the medium that was the popular medium. So when we're, in vaudeville, you have a lot of people in the tuxedos because they're going to look better in black and white if they're in black and white versus, all of these great colors on color television. This dummy here was used by Adrian Brody. What's cool about that is people who come here, if they know just of the scary movies, they know of Magic or the Twilight Zone episodes or Annabelle or whatever, those scary movies are. When I get to this one and I say, well, this is the only example I can think of where ventriloquism is part of a comedy. It's not a scary movie.
Right.
And so it's the counterexample that goes, it doesn't have the psychotic ventriloquist murderer, scenario. And then because of the popularity of the emergence of soft figures, we've got a lot of soft figures here made by the substantial figure makers. I don't think I have a Landon Harvey dummy yet, but I'll get one day. Right?
Yeah.
One day, sure. I love your work. You know that, I've said that before.
Thank you. I didn't know that Paul's stuff was in here.
Yeah, we just got this. So this is an exception where I do put all the new stuff together, but I wanted to have the AGT stuff together.
And what was this for?
This was a remote control car for his Vegas act.
Oh. Okay.
So Sam would come out in a car.
Slightly used?
Slightly used, yes, his slightly used cars. So yeah, this has been huge, of course, for ventriloquism. I mean, you were kind of an exception back then to have, your age group, when you guys were all 9, 10, 11, 12, there weren't a lot of you. And we wanted more kids. So when America's Got Talent comes on, it was great when Terry won. That was huge. That helped the community in general, and of course with Paul. But when Darci came along, and here's a 12-year-old doing ventriloquism, our numbers for kids at convention just went through the roof. Instead of having a dozen of you guys, young kids, now we have 50.
Yeah, it's that representation.
That's right. Yeah. It was exactly what it was. So her influence was huge.
The demographic of ventriloquism is constantly changing, with younger performers emerging, thanks in part to talents like Darci Lynne from America's Got Talent. It's exciting to witness the newfound energy in the art, and the influx of youth it renders.
It's interesting because even though this is one of the last rooms, this is where a lot of people's journey into ventriloquism began.
Exactly, that's exactly true.
For me, Dunham.
Yes, for Jeff. Yeah, Jeff Dunham it's huge because, and it's kind of people they're either more familiar with AGT, like they're watching network television and seeing them there.
Yes.
The ventriloquist exposure there, or they're more into cable and these specials and going out to see Jeff. So there's some crossover where people know both, but the general rule is they know one or the other, which is kind of cool. So yeah, Jeff is incredible.
At age 6, I was furthered into this art through Jeff Dunham's multiple Comedy Central specials and viral YouTube clips.
Good evening, infidel.
My grandmother and Jeff's mom were good friends, and they went to church together for many years. When he came to town, my family was often gifted tickets to see Jeff and VIP passes to meet him after his shows at the American Airlines Center in Dallas. Meeting Jeff Dunham was a highlight for me. His dedication and ability to push boundaries in ventriloquism have been incredibly motivating and never before seen.
I've never known anyone who works as hard as Jeff. Every degree of success he has had, he has worked for. Nothing was handed to him. He started, when he was in Dallas and doing commercials and used car commercials and all of that, and he had his sights set so high about what he wanted to do. When he graduated high school, he told those friends of his that before their 10-year reunion, he would be on The Tonight Show. He would be on The Tonight Show. So he set this goal for himself, and I believe, I might get the numbers a little bit wrong, I believe he was auditioned 8 times and was rejected 8 times, and it was the 9th time that he got on the show finally. And I believe it aired a month before his 10-year reunion. Something like that. So this guy, people look at him and they think, oh, well, he's got this, he's got that. But the truth is, this is Jeff Dunham just as much. This is Jeff Dunham. 10-year-old kid making $5 at birthday parties. That's Jeff.
Wow.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's Jeff Dunham, 7th grade kid with braces. I love to point this out because it keeps us humble,
Yes.
right? Who doesn't want their 7th grade school picture on exhibit in a museum? Keeps you humble. He wasn't always this Jeff. He had to work. I just admire hardworking people. I admire commitment. I admire, I don't like the word talent. I like the idea of work. And so I don't know if you're talented at figure making. I know that you've worked at figure making. I know that you've worked at your ventriloquism skills. I know you've worked to build your audience on digital media. So it's not just you wake up and ta-da, I've got all these followers, right? Didn't you start with 10?
Yeah. Started with 1. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's I think when people kind of go, oh, Jeff, it's like, oh, Jeff. But did you know Jeff 30 years ago? When he was schlepping those dummies around to comedy clubs, and had an audience of 200? Did you know Jeff when he was in high school and got voted most talented? Playing to his friends? Did you know Jeff when he got his Mortimer snurred as a 7-year-old? I mean, come on, give people their due.
I asked Lisa whether becoming a ventriloquist requires something special, or if anyone can learn the craft.
Do you think anyone can be a ventriloquist, or do you think it takes a specific...
When people ask me that, I always go back to the idea, do you think anyone can be a musician, or it takes a specific? Anyone can play. I could learn to play a guitar, but do I have a musician inside me? I don't think so. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think that's what it is. There is a spark that has to be there. The artist spark has to be there. Because there has to be an element of passion at whatever you do, or you're not going to do it well. So,
what's fascinating me about Dunham in comparison to people like Paul Winchell or even Bergen is that throughout time you can see the characters becoming more not stereotypical but more relatable.
Right.
When at first glance.
Right.
Even from just Archie to Monty.
Yes.
And these were his earlier boy figures. And then I believe he transitioned. He had Ollie.
Right.
And then
Ollie's up there.
And then Peanut ended up filling that space.
Peanut. Well, he's had the caffeine guy. He's had the coffee. The coffee guy. Yeah. That's another thing about Jeff that I think is important is he even though he's got his staple characters that he'll always use because they're successful, he's still willing to try new characters. Right. And if they work, they work. And if they don't, then that's okay too. He's still learning, he's still developing. He is not one who's ever thought he was done growing as an artist.
Yeah, and having specific characters that speak to everyday existence, relatability, and then also political climates.
Sure, absolutely.
Really gave him that edge over anything else that's been done before.
Right, people will talk, currently with Joe Biden as president, people will say, he puts the aviator sunglasses on Walter and he's got a Biden dummy all of a sudden, right? And so the political humor is right there, but it cracks me up when tourists will say, Walter looks like Joe Biden. And I'm like, oh no, Joe Biden looks like Walter. That dummy's existed for 40 years. Joe Biden wasn't this Joe Biden 40 years ago. He's morphed into Walter. So it's not the other way around. He didn't build that to do political humor. So I love that. Walter's been like that since the 80s. So things went really well because of so much advanced planning. During construction, I was constructing in virtual reality.
And how many years has the new museum been?
Well, this building's only 2 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've only been in this facility for 2 years. So even though the old thing was charming in its own way, the old facility, and had that Mr. Burger vibe to it, the founder's vibe, it wasn't what was best for the long-term collection. So I cried like a baby when the demolition crew was here and took down that garage building. I mean, Annie and I stood out there on the driveway and we're just like, it's for the best. It's for, as that wrecking ball was coming through, it was like, oh my gosh. But so excitement and sadness about things getting better and improving over time. There's still a sadness to when they end the way they were.
And how long did it take you to clear out all the dummies and memorabilia?
Oh, well, that was fun. You weren't here for that. I could have used some help, Landon. Well, I hope you've had a great time. I have loved taking you through the museum. And like I said, you've seen about 700 out of the 1,200 that we have. So when you come back next year, you'll see even more and different guys, new guys. So I hope you had a good time, right?
Oh, I mean, oh my gosh. I'm speechless in a room full of puppets that are the same, so.
That's it. Well, you're always welcome.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Landon. I'm glad you were here. See you next time.
If you're ever in earlier Kentucky, I highly recommend visiting the Vent Haven Museum. It's an unforgettable experience. This trip has been incredible. I'm honored to share it with you. For more about this amazing collection, visit venthaven.org and book your tour today. You'll be amazed by what you discover. My name's Landon Harvey. Learn more about me through landonharvey.com or visit @LandonVenting on social media platforms to see what I'm up to next.